AnyCubic Chiron, part 2. We're going to talk about the Marlin upgrade and Prusa Slicer for this sucker, okay? Stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Jeff, and in the last video, it was part 1 of our Chiron upgrade where we removed the original motherboard and we put in the SKR 1.4 turbo with the 2209 stepper drivers, and we got all the hardware mods. I'm going to show you a quick little video right now about how I kind of finished this up. Alright, so there's a couple of things I've done. I've got the screen frame all mounted here to the back like this. I'll put the STL for this in the description below. Now what I've done is I've taken my silicone wire and I put a little clip here just to hold it in place. And I've actually put another clip back here too on this axis just to hold it in. Now I do need to put a cover on this wire, so that's kind of a work in progress, but as I say, she's up and running. That's what I was mainly worried about, and I'll neaten it up in a bit. Onto the extruder. So what I've done here is, as you can see, it's direct drive. I got a BMG clone in here, and a blower fan. And I'm going to show you something here. So I took this mount off of Thingiverse, and I'll show you the mount. It's just like this here. But what I did was, I didn't like the original fan that came with the mount. It's right here. Or how it was hooked up. So I actually just sliced off a corner in Tinkercad. So I still have 2 good solid screws going through to the stepper motor. And then I just added this blower to the last screw. Now I got this model, it was a CR10 fan model. I'll post that link as well, that you can grab that too as well. And then I had a 40 mil fan here instead of the typical 30 mil, and I just you see there's still the blue shield that usually comes with the 30 by 30 fans. Well, I just extended it to be a 40 by 40. So that's pretty much the whole thing for my hot end. And it's working out really, really well. I'm actually impressed. And it also makes making a Prusa Slicer profile with it really easy, because all we're going to do is we're just going to adjust the regular Prusa Slicer profile for the MK3S, or the MK3S Plus now, I guess you would say, to work with this. And it's basically just changing the dimensions. That's it. So I'm going to do all that, and I'm going to show you all that Marlin stuff as well in just a minute. So there you have it. That's kind of what I still have to work on, which is a lot of wire management and stuff, but she's up, she's running, she's printing very good. Now, let's talk about the firmware, the Marlin firmware. Okay, first of all, I gotta put out a big shout to Clevenger. I think that's how I pronounce his name. I'm gonna put a link to his tutorial on how to install Marlin on this, because he is the guy who figured out how to get the optical sensors working. So that was awesome. Great shout out to Pat. Okay, thank you so much, and thank you so much for allowing me to use your video in my video, all that stuff, right? So I'm going to run through Marlin, and it's going to be very similar to his video, because basically I'm going to download his file and then adjust it for what I need. I think he's using 2208s. I'm going to use 2209s. So what I've done is I've added a bunch of little tweaks and stuff like that. So I'm going to do an M503 on this printer, grab all my settings, and then go to the computer, and we're going to go have a look at Marlin. All right. Okay, so I'm at my computer. I have VS Code open in on my desktop, and I'm going to go through my config H and my configuration advance H. Now, basically what I've done is, I'll link it below, I've downloaded Pat's firmware for the AnyCubic Chiron, because he's got that really neat trick how he gets the double optical end stops working. And I'm just going to go through this and show you some of the changes I did. His is for 2208s, mine will be for 2209s for the steppers. So we're just going to go through this and have a quick little look, as well as I have a few different settings on mine because I've worked his as a basic profile and sort of just adjusted stuff. He's already gone through all of this, so I don't need to do that. He's been doing this in his video. So yeah, so let's continue on. Okay, so mine are a little bit different here, so I'm just going to adjust. My P is 19.99. My I is, now I'm using an Eve 3D clone V6 hot end, so yours might be different. 1.79. It's always good to do your own PDI tune, so you have the system for your printer and your environment and all that. 7.2. Alright, so those are my PDI settings. Let's continue on. PDI temps, PDI bed. There we go. So my PDI beds are different as well. I'm going to tune those up right now. Like they're way different, so you know I might see a huge difference in layer consistency, because the problem is sometimes it draws so much power in order to heat the bed you get less to your extruder and you have a few little issues. So let's just change these. There we go. Alright, so that's that. Those are my PDIs. Again, you'll have to tune your own PDIs, but that's mine. I have my end stops defined. I think he left the use YMax plug on, but I'm not using the YMax plugs, so that might be configured for something different in his firmware. I'm not sure what it is, but it's not affecting me whatsoever, so I'm going to move on. Disable pull-ups. Alright, so this is important here. This is how you have your inverting. Whoops. So I have mine set the X-min to false, the Y-min to false, the Z to false, X-max to true, Y-max to true, Z-max end stop to false, and probing set to false. Now the X's and the Y's, in order to use sensorless homing, you'll have to have them set this way. It works for me. Again, I'm not an expert, I'm not even an amateur, but these are the settings that work for me, okay? And this is how I got my printer working. So divide my stepper motors, so I got the 2209s in. So the X, Y, and Z are 2209s, the Z2 2209s, the E0 and the E1s are all 2209s. Steps per unit. Let's just see here if I have anything different on mine. Again, these are set known settings, so you might want to leave these here. 80, 100, 400, and mine is actually 422 for my E steps. So that's a fix I'm gonna make. Z Pro. Okay, so he has this uncommented. I have this commented with the pin number of PO_10. It seems to work for me. I don't know. I'm using Bluetooth as well, so either commented or uncommented, I think it works. So let's just leave it alone. And we're defining a BL touch right here. Alright. Alright. I don't need any of this stuff. My offset is going to be, what is my offset? Oh, 1.67. So that's my current offset. Speed, feed rate, I didn't touch any of this stuff. I don't think. I didn't define any extra probing. I guess I could. So I just left that blank just to get it going. But yeah, I guess we could define extra probing, right? Offsets, I left all that alone. Waiting for heaters. Disable accesses, I left all this stuff the way it is. Okay, so stepper directions. Depending on how you have your guys wired up, you're going to look here. Like if you start your printer and you're homing something and it goes backwards, and you're going to change one of these values, okay? Same with your extruder. If your extruder retracts instead of extruding, like if you have direct drive or something, you're going to want to change the values here. Okay, this is all done. Oh, grid points. I'm doing 6 right now. I can change it to 5. Oops. Though my hand automatically wants to do 6. And that is about all it is. Let's go to the config advance. So right here. So this part here is, remember when we hooked up the fan into the what was it, the EO or the hot end 2 port for it to turn on at 50. So this is how you define all that. Okay, so this I believe is already in Pat's firmware, but if it's not, you'll just have to change, like uncomment it and make sure you have everything set up like this. Okay. See, now Pat sets all this up in his firmware, so he's got it all down to you're having your 2 Zs, and your Z2 uses the Z Max. Alright, so he's got it all figured out in here. So just leave this stuff alone and it will work just fine. Okay, so the home bumps, from what I understand, if you're doing sensorless homing, you want these at 0, okay? So that way it kind of knows what it's doing. Because if you have the bump, it kind of screws up the sensorless homing. That's what I've heard. So I'm just going to leave that at 0s like that. Okay, so yeah, so we're defining stealth chop here. Okay. And then we're just going to go to stall guards, sensorless homings. Okay, so you're going to want to set up your sensorless homing. It starts off at a value of 8. I find that being a bit too low. I had my firmware set up to 100. I needed to bump it up a little bit more. I have mine set at 110 and 110, and that seems to be just fine. So these steppers, they're set at a current of 900. That seems to be way too much, okay? Now, not to get into the math of it, but if our motors on the Chiron are rated at 1.2 amps, now if you do the math on that, and there's a bunch of calculators around, at 80% of that, that's going to be about, don't quote me on this, you can do your own math, about 680. But because these steppers adjust themselves, I just set mine at 500 for now, and you can adjust it. Not 9500, your motors will burn out. So just 500 for the X, 500 for the Y, and 500 for the Z, and I think that's about it. I think I just did them all at 500, to be honest with you, just rather than burning anything out. This was the one that was getting warm, because the extruder at 1000 just didn't seem to want to be good. So yeah, so I think that's all the changes that I did, and that's what got me up and running. So I'm just going to go and we're going to click off of this and build it. And yeah, so basically I was using Pat's firmware. I made a couple of tweaks to it, not really major tweaks. He did all the hard work, which is perfect. And that is it. I am just going to build the firmware now. So all these changes I just did was the tweaks I did on the printer with Pronterface, just running a PDI tune, doing step calibrations, looking at my steppers, doing the math on those. So I'm just going to run this all in here right now, and I'm going to build this firmware. I actually will probably put this in my Dropbox, so if you guys want this firmware as well as Pat's firmware, you guys can do that, but it's probably going to be better to take Pat's and sort of work on that. That will give you a good baseline. And from there, you're pretty much, you should be able to have your Chiron up and running on the turbo board, no problem whatsoever. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. A little bit of trial and error, obviously, but you know, overall, it works great. So, and there we go. That is it. So, open in File Explorer. There's my firmware bin. Stick that onto a USB stick. Or sorry, you stick that onto the SD card and insert it into your board, and then power on your board, and it will automatically update for you. So it's that simple. Alright, thanks a lot, guys. Okay, so here is Prusa Slicer. What we're going to do is we are going to build a Chiron profile. So all you're going to do, quite literally, is going to click on your Prusa setting for the MK3S, and edit preset, and you're going to go 400, oh, sorry, 450, and 400 by 400. And okay. And then you're simply going to save this as SKR. And that is it. That's all I did. And then, alright. And that is it. That is the easiest way to do it. Welcome back. So I hope you didn't fall asleep during that part of the video, okay? But yeah, that's basically how I took Pat's firmware and modified it slightly to work for what I want it to do. And also, if you watch both videos, it should give you a pretty good understanding of what to look for if you're having problems with this modification. Again, don't mess with anything if it's not broken. If it's working fine for you, leave it alone. Me, as I said before in the previous video, I had some TO errors. People were asking me, well, Jeff, why didn't you just change the cable out and call it a day? Well, if it was only that simple, because I had a couple of boards that I had thermostat errors with. I'll show you the email over here, I guess, that I got back from AnyCubic that will show you the resistance to check on your board if you're getting certain TO errors. So I had a couple bad boards coupled with the wiring issue. I figured, you know what, let's just rip it all out and replace it and do fresh. And now, you know what? The good news about this is I have like a Prusa XL now, right? I'm using the Prusa profile. I'm using all their default settings, and I have this huge build volume, right? It's great. It's my Prusa XL. It's awesome. All right. So guys, if you have any, oh, sorry. What else was I? Oh yeah. So somebody asked me to show a picture of the Chiron printing. Yeah, you're gonna see that somewhere over here right now, because okay, I'm new. I'm just trying to, you know, throw some videos together and stuff like that. But I'm basically only using one camera right now, right? So when I do stuff like this, the camera happens to be my phone as well, which I need on me most of the time. So I can't have it time lapse for like an hour or 11 hours or overnight or whatever. I need my phone. It's that simple. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look into getting something that I can do some time lapses and stuff with. If anybody has a cheap alternative, leave it down in the comments, please. If you like this video, if this video is going to help you out, please hit a thumbs up. If you're cruising through the channel, you know, hit subscribe. That would be fantastic. That would really help me out. Until next time, guys. All right. Thanks a lot. Be safe and peace out.